When I was 4 years old, my mother almost died. It was New Year's Day, 1980. She walks across the bedroom, and she collapses unconscious on the floor. Now, we had just moved into a new house. This is Mom, Dad. He was a businessman, middle-class family. She was a writer. And we just moved into this house to get closer to my father's office. Unbeknownst to us, the gas company had installed a furnace in this house that leaked carbon monoxide. So my mom, fixing up the house in the winter, starts to slowly die. After she passes out, we take her to the hospital. We find massive amounts of carbon monoxide in her bloodstream, and she's never the same again. So I watched my mother go from this vibrant wife, mother, picture of health to an invalid. Her immune system shut down, completely debilitated, allergic to the world. I was an only child. Family planning stopped after this accident. And I grew up in a caregiver role. I grew up taking care of Mom, helping with the cooking, helping with the cleaning. I played piano in church. I didn't smoke. I didn't drink. I grew up in a good Christian family, and I played by all the rules. And then at the age of 18, I stopped doing that. And I said, you know what? Now it's my turn. Now it's time to live for myself. I moved to New York City, and I discovered that there was this extraordinary job in New York City called a nightclub promoter, where you could get paid to drink alcohol for free. All you had to do was get the right people inside the right nightclubs, and you could charge them $500 for a bottle of vodka. By the way, this was invented in New York City, not in Las Vegas, okay? So from the age of 18 to 28, I began filling up clubs, working at 40 different nightclubs. This is a picture of my life at 28 years old in a VIP room, sitting with my partner. And what I thought was important at the time was the Rolex watch that I am pretentiously showing to some nightclub photographer that I've never even met before. I drove a BMW, I had the watch, I had the girlfriend on the cover of Elle magazine, I had a grand piano in my New York City apartment, all the things, the Labrador Retriever, all the things I thought would bring me happiness. But it was a dark life. A little later, this is what I would have looked like. Some disgusting after hours over a plate of cocaine. 10 years of partying, and I woke up in South America one day, and I was on this opulent vacation with all the people who had made it, private planes, Dom Perignon, Magnums, people playing $10,000 hands of blackjack and baccarat. And I realized that I'd somehow become the worst person in the world, the worst person I knew. I was leaving a meaningless legacy. My tombstone was going to read, "Here lies a man who has gotten 1 million people drunk," maybe, the course of his life. I realized I needed a change. And I decided, what if my life could look exactly the opposite? What would 180 degrees look like? So I came back to New York City, and I said, I'm going to try something very different. I'm going to go return to a lost faith and a lost morality. And I sold everything I owned, put up 2,000 DVDs on eBay in a single lot, trying to purge my old life. And then I began to apply to the famous humanitarian missions that I'd heard of, the World Visions and UNICEFs and Oxfams of the world. Scott Harrison, the great nightclub promoter, is now ready for service. You can imagine what happened. I'm denied by every single organization. Nobody would let me anywhere near them. Finally, one organization says, if you're willing to go live in Liberia, a country I'd never even heard of, and if you're willing to pay us $500 a month, then you can volunteer. I said, this is perfect. This is really the opposite of my life. So I joined this medical mission as a volunteer photojournalist on this hospital ship, 500-foot hospital ship. Very simple idea, bring the best doctors and surgeons on their vacation time to people in need of medical care. And we were going to sail into Liberia after the 14-year civil war had ended. I went all in. Before I got on the ship, I quit everything. I never smoked again. I never gambled again. I never touched coke or any of that stuff. Never looked at pornography or went to a strip club again. I wanted my life to look so different and step into a completely different story. I found Liberia to be a disaster. People living in bombed-out apartment buildings. The war had ruined the country. There was no electricity in the country. There was no running water in the country. There was no mail, no sewage system. And most importantly, there was one doctor for every 50,000 citizens. Here in America, we have a doctor for every 200 of us. So if you got sick, you were out of luck. And before the ship arrived at the port, we would flyer the country. We'd put up these posters and say, hey, if you've got a giant flesh-eating tumor, if you were born with a cleft lip or a cleft palate, turn up on this day and maybe our doctors can help you. The third day on the mission, 5:30 in the morning, I jump in a Land Rover, I'm in hospital scrubs, and we move in convoy towards the soccer arena, the football arena the government had given us. We had 1,500 surgery slots that we could fill over the whole many-month-long outreach. Turn the corner, and there are over 5,000 people standing outside waiting to get in that stadium to see our doctors. This was a moment for me. I just began to weep, realizing thousands of people were going to be sent home without hope. We didn't have enough doctors. We didn't have enough resources. The first child in line, the first child I photographed was this little boy named Alfred. 14 years old, suffocating to death on his face with a benign tumor. His mom pulls out this photo and says, my son, 4 years ago at 10, he was completely fine. But then this tumor begins to grow, and there was no surgeon that she could take him to. And it was taking over his face and taking over his life. So I realized that's why we were there. We were to help kids like Alfred. A couple days later, I watched this amazing surgeon operate on Alfred's face for free, remove his tumor, throw it in the medical waste. And then a couple weeks later, I got to take him home with his new face and watch him heal. It was a powerful year that turned into 2 years on that hospital ship, meeting extraordinary people, taking 50,000 photos, and the whole time bombarding my club list with these photos. I did get some unsubscribes. People were like, I turned up for that cool Prada party you threw once, but not the tumor party. But what I really learned was people wanted to help. They said I had no idea that people were suffering like this, that they were doctors giving up their time to help. How do I serve? How do I give? On my second tour, I got off the ship and into the villages, and I wanted to see what was making people sick, and I saw dirty water for the first time. I saw the water that people were drinking in the rural areas. They were drinking from swamps. I met a 13-year-old girl named Hawa drinking from a pond. Realized this was the only water she had her whole life. She was using this water to wash, to bathe,